Hey guys, I thought I'd chuck up a little bit of a notepad prompt for this video. I don't get too flash. I don't have moving things and animating titles and editing. So this will do. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through quickly creating a WordPress starter plugin. And we're going to use local by WPEngine, which is for a local host development. And it integrates really, really well with some of the other stuff. We're going to use ChatGPT, which you should know about, and we're going to use a prompt that I'll share in the video description. This prompt helps us to create our plugin header file, which I'll talk about. We're going to use GitHub's Copilot, which is now free for all GitHub users. It does have some limitations on the free plan, but it's great to get started with. It does have some limitations in its code as well, which we'll talk about. We're going to use Visual Studio Code editor, which is a free code editor, which is a brilliant code editor. I typically use IntelliJ IDEA. I find that it's a more polished editor, but as a freebie, VSCode is definitely a fantastic tool, and you can download it for free, which is great. And we're also going to use a composer, which is a PHP library, and it does a whole lot of things. All we're going to use it for today is managing what's known as PSR4 class autoloading, and I'll show you what that is as well. And so far, my results with GitHub Copilot they're kind of mixed. Sometimes the output is great, it's perfect. Other times it's not very optimal, and other times it's just plain wrong. And I'm actually getting better results out of ChatGPT than I am out of this Copilot. That said, the code completion is brilliant. It's very, very quick. It saves you time, even if it's not perfect, but you still need to be looking at it and assessing it and making sure that that code's going to do what you want it to do, because it is often wrong. It's more right than wrong, but it is often wrong. So that said, let's have a quick look at what these are. So local by WPEngine, which I think when I downloaded it, it was called Flywheel. So they must have bought them, I would say. This is a local development environment, so you can spin up WordPress websites really, really quickly, and then you can edit them from here. This is on your local computer, not requiring an external web server, so it's good for really quick local development and testing and things like that. In this case, plugin development. Okay, we are then going to look at what's on my list. ChatGPT, which you should know about. GitHub Copilot, which is now free for all GitHub users, and GitHub's free as well, so unless you want to work with teams, etc. But there are some limitations on what you can do in a month, and if you want to do a lot more, you can go to the Pro, which is actually only $10 a month. So if you're going to use it a bit, it's worth the money. Again, it's not perfect. It's probably going to improve, I'd say, but it definitely, for what it does, I'm thinking it's worth the value. Anyway, so that is GitHub Copilot. We're then going to look at VSCode, which is this Visual Studio Code Editor, completely free. I believe this is from Microsoft. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it is a great little editor for a freebie. Okay. We're then going to set up Composer, which is a PHP library. If you're using a Windows, you can just download the install and run it. If you're using Mac, your process will be a bit different, but if you use Mac, you should be able to understand how to install software. And this library here allows you to do a lot of cool things in PHP. One that we're going to use is the autoloading. Now, autoloading is all about not having to specify the file paths for your classes. You don't have to include or require those classes. It all just happens auto-magically in the background. So semi-auto-magically. All right, so let's have a look at what we actually create. So in the end, we're going to create a demo plugin here. I've just got to say my demo plugin is loaded, and we've got some error checking in there, which is in here. I'm just going to change that. If there, I'm just going to change that to false. So if we don't have our autoloader set up, is that correct? Yep. If you don't have an autoloader set up, then I'm going to get that error saying that the composer autoload file is not found. run composer install or set it up. Okay, so this is just a really demo dummy stuff. Now I'm going to go back to my VS Code because I've been playing in here. I keep forgetting I can't delete it because I've got a console open or a terminal. So I delete that, and I can delete this from here or from WordPress. So I'm just going to delete it from here. So it's gone. Now if I refresh WordPress, it's going to tell me that doesn't exist anymore. Refresh it again, and we have no remnants of that plugin whatsoever. So we are going to start again. All right. So go back to local, and in local we're running a WordPress site. I've called this AT with Bricks Bits. It can be whatever you like. We're going to go to VS Code by just clicking on the VS Code button or link, and that will open up our VS Code there. Okay, and we will see in our plugins we have Bricks Advanced Seamer, so that's Maxime, Big One's Advanced Seamer, Instant Images, and WP Reset. We don't have any other plugins here. So I'm going to right click on plugins. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this demo plugin. Okay, now you want to make sure you use lowercase and you separate with hyphens or minus, because that is the right way to do it with Linux or Unix. Okay, I'm going to copy that name, press the enter key, I'm going to right click on my demo plugin, I'm going to do a new file, paste that in there and do a .php, and that's going to be our plugin file which loads when we load WordPress. Okay, now we've got up the top here, we can see we've got GitHub's Copilot installed. I have not found this to be very effective for creating code where you want it to prompt and ask you for questions. So I'm doing that in ChatGPT instead. So let's head over to ChatGPT. I'm going to just create a new chat. And in that chat, I'm just going to pick my prompt, which I will share with you. WordPress, create standard plugin header prompt. And I'm using Prompt Genius, by the way, for this, for just remembering my prompts. Paste that in there, press the enter key. It's going to ask me, what's the name of the plugin? Demo plugin. Okay. What's the description? The demo for video. What's the version? 0.0.1. So this is a alpha version. What is the text domain? You can put one in here, or you could say base on name. And whatever name you put in, it'll create that for you. So it says here, understood, the text domain will be demo plugin. All right. What is the constant prefix for your plugin? So most plugins, you will define some global constants that you would use throughout the code. So in global constants, you normally define using capitals with an underscore separating. So I'm just going to call this WPE, make it unique, and then demo, can't type, plugin. Okay, press the enter key. Okay, it's creating my code for me. So I've got my plugin header for WordPress, so it knows how to display this, what the version is. It's got this author details from my prompt, so you can change it to whatever you want. And set my text domain. I've got my WordPress, either it's come from WordPress, not directly, or die. I don't know why it says no script kiddies here. You can put whatever you like there. And it's defined my basic constant, so the file. So I can use that anywhere throughout the plugin code, because I want to know, for example, your activation and deactivation hooks, you need that file. And if your code is, 3 directories deep, that file is going to be wrong. So we get a reference to it from the beginning, the URL for this plugin, the directory, the actual folder or directory, the asset URL. So we're going to create a folder called assets. In fact, let's do that now. So in our demo plugin, I'm just going to create one here, new folder, it's called asset. And I'll just do a /CSS so it creates that at the same time. And then in there, new folder, JS, and new folder, media. Okay, so I've got 3 asset folders now. Okay, I've then got my options name. If I'm going to create options for this, This is a simple way to keep a singular point of truth for your options name. We're then going to look for the composer autoload, and if it exists, we're going to load it. So let's get to that. So let's go and copy this code here. So that was it, all generated from asking how many questions do we get there? What's the name? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. Asked 5 questions, and we've ended up with this code. Okay, so I'm just going to paste that in there, and that is our plugin. If I just save that now, go back to my backend here and refresh, I have a demo plugin which is got demo for video, our version number, and author details, and I can activate that. It's not going to do anything because all we've done is told it to be a plugin. We haven't told it to do anything yet. Okay, so now we're going to set up our Composer PSR4 autoloading. And let me go to ChatGPT, because I did actually write this in here to find out a good way to explain this to you. So PSR4 autoloading. Okay, here we go. So PSR4, there are standards. So there's PSR, as far as I'm aware, I think it's PSR 0 through to PSR 8. They're standards. And this PSR4 is a standard for mapping class names to directory paths. So the example here is if we have a class path, so this is our namespace of app controllers home controller, and we've got a class called home controller in a file called homecontroller.php under app controllers, that will automatically load that. We don't have to use an include or require, it just automatically happens for you. And that's the beauty of it. And I think down here there's an example of a structure, not the structure I would normally use. So we've got source, controllers, modules here. And in here, we've got a namespace of app controllers. So app we don't use in here. So maybe that's just a name they've given to their class paths. I've got a way that I prefer to work with this, which I'll show you. And basically this home controller is in a file called homecontroller.php under controllers. So it will auto load. It will auto load for you because we've told it that the app namespace starts at source. Okay, so app is pointing into that folder there. So the next path is controllers. So app controllers, and app controllers knows that that's app, that's controllers, that's my home controller file, which has got my home controller class, and it just automatically happens for you. So let's work on how that actually happens. So we go to our plugin in VSCode. I'm going to right click on my demo plugin, and I'm going to tell it to open it in an integrated terminal. So that gives us a prompt. I'm not sure if it's a command prompt or PowerShell in Windows, but it's not a lot of room to work in here. So I'm just going to hide this sidebar, and there it is there. And what we're going to do is we're going to type composer and then init. So composer space init. Okay, and that's going to run our composer. Now you have to have installed this obviously for it to run. And it'll give me a default package name. Look, I'm not sharing this out, so really it doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to press enter on that. I'm not going to bother to give it a description. I'm just pressing enter on these. I'll just accept the author details. I'm not going to bother with stability. I'm not going to bother telling it what type of package it is or what license. It asks if we want to define dependencies. I'll say no because we're not going to add any dependent PHP libraries yet. So I'm just going to say N for no, press enter. Do we want any dev dependencies? No, enter. Do we want PSR4 autoload mapping? And I will say yes here, even though it's going to be wrong and we need to fix it. Wrong for the way I like to work, I should say. So I'm going to say yes. So it's no or yes. Sorry, no or enter. I'm just going to press enter and not put no, and that means it's going to work. Do you want to confirm the generation? Hit enter because the default is yes. And there it is created. And what we'll see is if we look at the composer JSON that's been created, our PSR4 has my name, demo plugin is going to be in the source folder. I don't like this. I take my name out and I take the name of that, the first part of your namespace. I put that in the source because then I can have other things in there if I want to as well. And I save that. And that's what I actually want to happen. But now I need to update Composer because Composer, if we look in the vendor Composer autoload PSR4, it's looking under for a class namespace starting with Alan Blair / demo plugin. It's going to look in the source directory. We don't want that. So I'm just going to close that there. Come back to our terminal and I'm going to type, actually I'll just hide this sidebar again so we can see what's going on. I'm going to type Composer and dump autoload. And that just tells it to recreate it. And there's no space between dump and autoload. Sorry, got sirens going off in the background here. Let me get that pass and press the enter key. So you can tell I don't edit these videos. All right. Now, what we're going to sort now, if we look at the vendor Composer autoload PSR4, it's updated. Because we ran the dump autoload, it's updated that there. So it's going to look for any class starting with demo plugin in the folder source demo plugin. That's our base for where we start. Okay, so we're almost ready to go. So that's it there. We have set up our Composer autoloading and we've set up our initial classes. So let's go to our source. Where's our source folder there? I'm going to add a new folder and we're going to give it that same name. So it's demo. So demo plugin, and we'll see, sorry, I should have actually clarified that. So we're looking under source demo plugin for any class starting with demo plugin. So we need to have that folder created. So we go demo plugin, and then there we're going to create a new, you can create subfolders in here, depending on how complex your plugin is. You might have for controllers, models, API, things like that. I'm just going to create a new file here, and I'm going to call that my common controller. And this is a PHP file, so we've got to put .php. All right, now, this is where, when I'm using IntelliJ IDEA, this would automatically create the class, it would automatically create the namespace and everything for me. VSCode doesn't do that. There may be some plugin that does that, but you can do that using this GitHub Copilot. And it's a lot better than the way it works. So you can either press Control-I or you can just click on where it says press Control-I. And I'm going to ask it to create class with static. You've got to be specific here. I like using static methods here because this controller is only going to get instantiated once. It doesn't need to create multiple instances of it. So you can either use what they call a singleton pattern, or you can just use static methods. I think static methods are a lot easier in this case. Some people might argue it's harder for testing, but I think it's just a much simpler way of doing it there. So static methods, we want init, we want WP init, we want admin init, and we want front end. Now I haven't given it much information here about what I want these to do, but it's pretty good because it actually knows this is to do with WordPress. So it knows it's going to create some stuff. So I just put the enter key on that. It's going to go off and it's going to create some stuff for me. And some of it's going to be wrong, which I'm going to show you. So I'm going to accept that. It's created my code. It's given me my PHP opener, my namespace, a demo plugin, because it knows it's under that class path. Created my class, it's created a static function there, and there. Now, the first thing I notice in here is I want the init to run whether it's front end or back end. That is my common stuff. So I call that common if I want to. So that's okay. That's going to be calling okay. It's added the self-of class, which works. That's an old way of doing it. You could also update this to be class, and that's to me that is the more, I guess it's what they call a magic constant. I like the idea of it. They work exactly the same. I just like the look of using these magic constants rather than the old static class. Okay, now there are some caveats to that, but this case works fine. Right, now, one problem I'm seeing here is this init will run on front end and back end. Admin init will run on admin, but WP, I happen to know, runs on both front end and back end, yet it's used WP for my front end init. So if you didn't know WordPress very well, you would think this is okay, ready to go. It's not. We need to fix that up. So I'm going to go to that there. I'm just going to press Control I to bring up my Copilot. This is my GitHub Copilot. I'm going to go say ensure that what's the front end init? Only runs on front end. Now I can fix this code quite quickly myself rather than typing this in. This is to show you can type in plain English and it will actually fix it for you. Okay, I'm going to accept that. So now it's wrapped in an if not is admin, then we want to add WP hook to call the front end init. Now, this is one way of doing it. The other way, and Copilot came up with another method as well, which is another one I use, is instead of using isAdmin, you could have just used the template redirect hook, which only runs on the front end. Okay, so you need to look at this and go, okay, WP I think runs earlier than template redirect. So it depends on your code. When do you want this to run? And does it matter? If it matters, you might need to change that hook there. So now we've fixed it. We've basically got an init which runs on both front end and back end, admin init which only runs on the admin, and a WP which only runs on the front end. Okay, so I'm going to add a WP die so we can do some testing. And we're going to use a magic method, a magic constant of method. And I'm going to put that on each of these. And we'll use this to debug whether this code is running or not. This is now where I'm going to show you the magic of PSR4. So at this stage, if I created a common controller, I've added in there, we're still not going to get any changes in the editor here or in the admin backend because we're not actually running anything. All we're doing is defining this class, but we're not actually calling it anywhere. So to go back to our demo plugin, and what we're going to do is if this auto load exists, we're going to load it, and then we're going to call our common controller init. See how quick that was? That is the GitHub Copilot where I just started typing. So I just started typing common. Yeah, and I press tab, done. So that type ahead or code completion is absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to hit save on that. And what we should see is we should get a WP die for our first hook that runs. So I refresh, WP die, WP init. Okay, now we are in admin. WP init runs, and it should because that's going to run in both admin and front end. So let's just comment that out now. So go back and refresh. Now we've got admin in it, okay, which is what we want. So we comment that out, refresh, and we have no die there. Nothing dies there. If we go to the front end, well, we've got our front end in it. Okay, so that's exactly what it's supposed to do. So let's just comment that out and see what happens. Refresh. Okay, we're getting our front end. We want to make sure our WP init, which is the common one, runs there as well. So uncomment that, refresh, and that's running as well. So what we know now is we've just confirmed that WP init runs on both admin and front end. Admin init runs on admin, and front end init only runs on front end. So we can segment our code out into whatever we want to happen here. So that is the beauty of this, is that all I've done here is call my common controller. VSCode automatically put this use up here, so I don't have to put the full path to it in there. Automatically put that in there. I don't have to require that class. Previously, what I would have had to do is at some point I would have had to doing a require dir dot source demo. So I would have to require that PHP file with the class before I could actually initiate it. But because of PSR4 autoloading, I don't have to do that. It automatically looks in the path, goes the path to the class, matches the path to the file name. I'm just going to automatically load it for you. Okay, so let's have a look at one other thing here, and that is we're going to add in here. I'm going to just click here. I don't think it matters where you click here. I'm going to do a Control I, and I'm going to add admin notice if autoloader does not exist. Okay, pretty straight, plain form English. Enter. All right, there we go, accept that. All right, now it's added it's messed it up. Why has it messed it up? Well, it's added some extra stuff here. So this is the sort of thing I'm getting with this Copilot. Sometimes it messes up, so I'm just going to double check this again. So that's correct. Otherwise, add the admin notices to add our notice error. Okay, so that's correct, but it did mess up the code when it put it in there. So I'm going to go back and just delete this here. I'm going to cut that to the clipboard, just put false. To make sure this actually works, so false, then we want to, it's going to be false, which means we're going to run the else. Oh, the mouse has stopped working. Here we go. Okay, in our admin area, here we go. We've got an admin notice. Okay, and all we've done is add an action in the else there. So I'm going to put that code back in there and save that. So each of these is just working out what actually is working. Have I not commented out those? Save that. Must have forgotten to comment that out. Okay, plugins. I don't have my admin notice. Go back to here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put another notice on there. And so I'm going to copy here. Copy that there. And if it is loaded, I'm going to add a notice of notice info. And I'm going to put in here annoying. Notice okay, annoying. Excuse my keyboard. I've got to have my microphone near the keyboard at the moment because of this situation I'm in at the moment. But so there's going to be some typing noise here that might frustrate some people with loud speakers. Okay, so save that. Have a look here. Okay, annoying notice about demo plugin. So that came from our autoloader existed to require it, initialize our plugin, and then just add this action to add an annoying notice. Otherwise, if we say autoload doesn't exist, actually what I might do is I'll change that path vendors. So we've got the path wrong, and then load this. We get an error because it can't load it. Okay, so it can't require it. So we're going to, if file exists, vendors. Doesn't exist. So we get a demo plugin autoloader not found. Okay, so that's as simple as that. Ready to go. So in there's a lot of explaining here, but you could see that if I wasn't explaining any of this, you know, I would have had my plugin demo, what call it, header file all created, ready to go. I'd have my composer auto loading ready to go. I'd have my comment controller ready to go. And now I'm starting to get ready to create the actual plugin functionality that I want to, add shortcodes, to add options, to, to interact with the database or whatever I want it to do. It is ready to go. It's a really simple, I think, a simple way of getting up and running really, really quickly. I like the idea of it. So if you don't agree, or you can see something that I'm actually missing here that I should be doing differently or better, love to hear your comments. All right, thanks guys. If you like this sort of thing, hit the subscribe and hit the like. Thank you.